Welcome back to the second podcast of the Teal Raven. My name is Terry, and I'm here to talk to you about all the things that I love. Knitting and quilting and recipes and life in general, I guess. Thought I'd start off with the things that I love. I only have one thing I really love right now. My dog walking around with his long toenails. Stop, go away. This, oh God, the ember. My sister sent me this because I broke my other one. You can't put these in the microwave. They're electronic. Look, that's the temperature. That's the temperature. That's the temperature I want for my coffee. I can turn it up, I can turn it down. I like it at 130. Anyway, wow, I mean, it lasts for like an hour and a half in this. When I'm sewing in my sewing room or when I'm knitting, I get in a rhythm, and I don't stop and drink my coffee or my tea, which starts to get very cold. When I have this, I just take and pick it up and I drink, and it's the perfect temperature right off the bat. So love it. It's from Starbucks. You can get it online at Amazon. They aren't cheap, I tell you, but man, if you love your coffee as much as I do, it is worth every penny, especially when your sister buys it for you, because then you didn't spend the pennies. Absolutely the best gift ever. Okay, here's things that are true. I wrote down one thing that is true. I'm going to try to write down one thing that is true every time I do a podcast. But this I know for a fact. If money is in the laundry hamper, it belongs to me, right? I mean, that's a general rule of thumb. John was saying that the money that was in his pockets, which was like $20 in his Levi's, that was in the hamper, was his. And I'm like, ask any woman, ask anybody who does the laundry ever, who that money belongs to. Laundry hamper money belongs to the person doing the laundry. That's a fact. That is a thing I know that is true. Okay, little things I make. Sometimes when I finish with making my socks and my sweaters and stuff, I have these little balls of yarn. And things I like to make with those little balls of yarn. This guy is only partially done. It's a little voodoo doll. He'll have little voodoo eyes. Eventually, buttons. He has one leg to go. Little doot 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 doot. It sits on my shelf. This is from a recipe. This is from a pattern called Voodoo You Love Me by Susan Claudino Designs. She's on Ravelry, and this pattern costs $6. But I gotta tell you, when I bought the pattern, it was $5.50, and you can only make the one size, and it didn't have any different real variations. Now the pattern is $6, and the dolls are big. You can make them really big for your grandkids and stuff. So cute. Everybody I give these to loves them. I went to my dentist's office, and I had one that I was making, and the receptionist said, I love that. I love every color in that doll. I want that doll. And I said, guess what? I love your bracelet. It's a sailor bracelet, and my daughter would absolutely love it. And she is in Bahrain right now, and she whipped off that bracelet, gave it to me. I handed the doll to her. We were both happy from that exchange. So nice to keep these little guys around in my purse for, you never know when you come across those fun little finds like a bracelet. The other thing I like to make, and now I finally have a baby in my life, sweet little Bridget Rose, are baby booties. You don't need very much yarn. This one's not finished yet. You don't need very much yarn, but you do need a good pattern because babies crawl out of their booties. I had 3, I know this. Things to look for in a good baby boot pattern are, how does it attach to the foot? you want this little piece right around the center here, which fits above the foot. You want that to have an eyelet that you can take and run a crocheted cord through to attach it to the baby's foot so it can't come out. Okay, if it's just a ribbing that folds down, and that baby's going to crawl out of that. It won't even last a minute in that booty. It needs to have something that ties around the middle. I like the ones that have these 3 little ridges because I think they look like moon booties. They're kind of fun. They're not very hard to make. Each booty takes about an hour. There are several free patterns on Ravelry. I usually just do a search on stay on baby booties, and that usually works pretty well. And I go for free if I can. So let's talk about Ravelry for a second, because a lot of people might not know what it is if you're just starting out with knitting. It's called Ravelry.com, and I spend a majority of my time there when I'm online. What you do is you have to sign in. It's a free account to sign in, and you get a page. And on that page, you can select to enter your projects with pictures, ongoing or finished projects. You can put in your stash, which is your yarn collection. That's how I found that yarn that I mentioned last week. This gray yarn from Ancient Arts, the District 12. I did a search on District 12 yarn, and somebody had it in their stash and was willing to sell it to me. So you can search for projects online and put them in your queue, and those are projects that you want to do in the future that you haven't paid for yet, but you just have them queued up in case you want to take and do the project later on. There are literally thousands of shawls and sweaters, and these are all patterns that people like me and you just make. And someone says, well, that's a great pattern, why don't you write the instructions up for that? So these are well-known designers. Hoagie Locatelli's on there, Stephen West. These are huge designers, but also Barbara down the street. She might have a really cute baby booty pattern that her mom taught her. She'll put that pattern in there, and then it can either be for free or a couple of bucks. Throw a couple of bucks her way and buy the pattern. You have it forever. There's a place for groups and events. On June 9th, so coming up right around the corner, is a Knit in Public Day. Knitting in public, yay! And fortunately for me, my local place for knitting in public is a pub, the Fox and the Goose Pub in Sacramento. So I'm going to be going to there while John drinks, and we'll both have a good time that night. Place for you to put in your needles and your hooks, a library of all the patterns you have purchased already, a message box for people you talk to online. You can find friends and stuff. Like I said, when I found the District 12 yarn that I was looking for, I just sent a message to that lady, and she messaged me back through the email service that is on the Ravelry.com. A list of your purchases. I've been doing Ravelry since 2012, and I was really surprised at how many purchases I've done over the years, because most of them are just like $5, $6, $7 items, not very much at all. And boy, those add up after a while, don't they? So that's where I spend most of my time. So Ravelry, it's RAVELRY.com. And you can find me on there as well under the Teal Raven. You can see my notes, and then I'm trying to get forum groups set up, but that's another whole ball of wax that went sideways last night. I have messages into people at Ravelry trying to fix that little problem. Other places I like to hang out on the computer. Etsy is the place to go for hand-dyed independent yarns. So indie yarns is what they call them. This would be considered an independent yarn dyer yarn. Okay, this is from Lolo Did It. Put that right there. Okay. This, ooh, look how beautiful. This is called Heisenberg Blue. And this is the photo she used to create this. I've never watched Breaking Bad, so I didn't know. I had to take and send her a message and said, Heisenberg Blue, how did you come up with that color? And she's like, oh, well, it's real classy. It's from this Breaking Bad, and that's the name of the drug that he makes. Yeah, that's classy, but I don't care because it's gorgeous and I love blues. So Heisenberg Blue, you never know where they're going to come up with their ideas. Heisenberg Blue also came with this little skein of sock called Angry Rhino. So I'll knit these two together. And whenever I get a little skein with a big skein like this, what you typically do is you knit a sock with a different colored, maybe a different colored cuff, but definitely a different colored heel and toe. And it just makes the sock look a little bit more special. So I'll be putting these two together, Heisenberg and Rhino, Angry Rhino from Lolo Did It. Love her yarns so much. I heart them. I heart her yarns. All right, let's see. For quilting, places that I don't really hang out there, but every morning I get an email from the Missouri Star Quilting Company and Bear Creek Quilting. Missouri Star Quilting Company has what they call, well, they're 10-inch squares of their fabric. I think they call them cakes there, but I'm not positive. You know, I think they're called stackers, 10-inch stackers at Missouri Star. Each company has the 10-inch pre-cut squares that you can get in their fabric collections. Some of them call them cakes. I think that Missouri Star calls them stackers, but you can get them for, oh, you know, I would say maybe $17 to $20, and you get the whole variety of fabrics that are in that line. And I look at those every morning to see if they have any bees, because I collect bee fabric. And also in my stash, my fabric stash, I have it all arranged by colors. And I know that there are certain colors, just looking, I have lots and lots of blues, obviously, because I love blues. I have lots of mustard, this color mustard, as I love mustard in my quilts. But I'm kind of light on oranges, and my greens aren't real heavy right now. So if I see a bunch of fabric that's in those colors, I might consider buying them just to build up my stash. It's a real inexpensive way to build up my stash. Now, the other company that I really like is called Bear Creek Quilting, and I've ordered from them quite a lot. They have a really, really amazing website, very well put together, and they have things that are appropriate to the season. For instance, yesterday's quilting fabrics were all for Christmas. Okay, now I know everybody's like, oh, Christmas, but yeah, for quilters, this is the time of year when you start thinking about those fabrics for the quilts. Beautiful red cardinals and roses and Christmas bulbs, beautiful, beautiful things. So I recommend those two sites definitely. Mars, just leave that alone. All right, before I go into the last few things on what I want to talk about today, I did want to talk a little bit about acrylic yarns versus the wool yarns, the hand-dyed wool yarns, because there's a huge price difference on these. I brought a couple of acrylic yarns. These are, you can get these at like Michael's and Joann's. Just, I think they were just called acrylic sock yarn. Yeah, wool-free sock. Okay, and they're beautiful. I mean, the colors are beautiful, and they have these little pictures of how they'll stripe up on the label. Usually they do. It's not 100%, but the price point of these, you can get this for maybe $4 to $6, whereas something like this, which will make 2 socks, this will only make 1 sock. So you have to buy 2 of these. This is enough to make 2 socks, and it runs about, a good indie dye will run between $25 and $40 for a skein of good merino wool, which this is. This is amazing stuff. So I can see she doesn't have what this. Oh yes, this is 85% extra fine superwash merino wool and 15% nylon. So this, I love it even more now. I can toss this in the washing machine and wash it, and then just lay it out to dry, and it's going to come out perfect. These I can toss into the washing machine and dryer, and they'll come out. They don't come out as perfect. This stuff, a lot of times you have to iron it, and you have to kill it with the iron to get it into the right shape. It doesn't block out nicely. It's okay for socks because you put your foot in, and the shape of your foot is so weird that it really does kind of stretch out the sock, and it's very forgiving. But for little jackets and stuff for babies and stuff, when you're putting all this effort into the project, you can use these inexpensive yarns and they'll come out nice. And yes, you'll be able to wash them and dry them, which for a mother that's just starting out is a really great deal. You don't want to add more to their plate by any means. But using a yarn like this creates an heirloom. And yeah, they have to take and lay it flat to dry, but the stitches are going to show up better. They're going to be more defined. These colors are absolutely one of a kind. These skeins that they put into it, whereas these are manufactured, and any other babies can be wearing the same thing. Why not Bridget Rose in something perfect instead of something 80% perfect? Other cons about these is that these are flammable, really flammable, and your wools are not. So I don't necessarily want to stick my baby into flammable things. And the warmth that comes from acrylics is actually coming from your sweat. Warmth from the wool is coming from the wool. It's the heat from your body. It's not sweat. The sweat wicks out, so you're staying warm naturally. It's a natural warmth, which is different than a warmth you get from acrylics. Anybody who lived through the 70s could tell you exactly what I'm talking about, because they wear those acrylic shirts all the time. But again, the price, a con is the con for the hand-washed, hand-dyed things is their price point. It's very expensive, but it's also the best tool for the job. Price point in these is a pro. They're not that expensive, and you can wash them. I think the important thing to take away from this, though, is just knit. I mean, make the handmade items. Take the time to make them, whether you're using the acrylics or whether you're using the superwash merinos. Knitting is what's most important, and giving a product that's made from love, or as SpongeBob would say, made from my tears. So, yeah, I haven't made things from tears for the kids in quite a while. Okay, I want to talk about a recipe I have. It's this beef and Guinness stew. Look at that picture. Okay, I'm just going to kind of run it off real fast, and if any of you actually want the recipe, you can go to my website on Ravelry and let me know, or send me an email. I'm at Terry Sparks Nugent. That's my Facebook account. Friend me, and I will give you this recipe. It's taking a pressure cooker. I use an old-fashioned pressure cooker with the type of the knob that jiggles on top, and it sounds like it's going to explode any second. But you can use an Instapot as well. Take a package of thick bacon, and I cube it up beforehand and then just dump it in the pot and stir fry it until it turns into bacon, that you would eat. And then add onto that 2 pounds of chopped up chuck beef, and it can be the bad cuts of meat because you're in a pressure cooker and it's going to turn them soft and great into a wonderful cut of meat. Okay, then you just take and don't saute these ahead of time or anything. You take 2 medium onions, big onions. You take some cloves of garlic, crush them up. 4 potatoes or turnips. My husband's allergic to potatoes, so I make this with turnips. Peel them, dice them up, stick them in the pot. Celery, a couple stalks of celery chopped up, a couple of parsnips. I use parsnips for that little extra bitey kick. Couple of large carrots. Basically, whatever vegetables you have in the refrigerator, chop them up, put them in the pot. Add a full bottle of Guinness dark stout. They're extra stout. Add a cup of beef broth, which comes in those cans or those little cartons, and just dump that in. So that's your liquids. Your bottle of stout, your cup of broth, 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, and I mix that together with 1/4 cup of tomato paste. I just pour the Worcestershire sauce and the tomato paste together and mix it all in and make it a little bit more liquidy. Dump that in. Put a little dried thyme and some salt, and I think I also throw in some bay leaves. Just kind of mix it all together. As soon as it's all mixed together, sprinkle about 3 tablespoons of flour on top so that it makes a gravy, and close up that pressure cooker and cook it for about 45 minutes. And I tell you, you will be writing me love letters. It's that good. So delicious. I make it for family occasions, and the whole family sits around. Bee really loves it because it's nice and mushy, and she doesn't necessarily like to have to chew through really hard pieces of meat and stuff. And the guys love it because it's all Guinnessy and just tastes wonderful. So that's a good recipe, and I would be happy to send it to you. Okay, my last thing I'm going to show you before I go is an air knit sweater. Now, there's an old saying that says that you should never knit an air knit sweater for someone you love, a boyfriend especially, because your boyfriend will leave you as soon as he gets the sweater, is the way the story goes. It's okay if you knit the sweater for your husband who's a fisherman, because, and I don't know whether this is true or not, I've heard two sides of the story. It used to be that the sweaters had their own patterns, and you could tell if the body washed ashore, you couldn't tell who the body was because it had been in the water for a long time, but you could tell who they were by the pattern on their sweater. Now, I don't know whether that's an old wives' tale or not, but this is an air knit sweater that I knit. I'm just going to show you the kind of the corner, show you the corner here, because it goes all the way down. It's the same thing. So it's got seed stitch going across here, and a couple cables, and then there's cables that go up the sleeves, all the way up the sleeves, and it's the same on the front and the back. I knit this 25 years ago. You can tell it's really held up with the test of time. The sweater went for my husband, and then it went down to my youngest son, and he wore it for a while. And then I took it back because youngest son wasn't wearing it anymore. And I thought, you know, I put so much work into that sweater, I'm going to hang on to it because you never know, maybe I'll have a grandson someday or a granddaughter who might really like it. Turned out really well. The only thing was, I remember when I bought the yarn for it, you know, people are like, oh, make me a sweater. Well, first of all, it's about $200 of yarn, and that's before you knit it. Really good yarn, it's going to cost that much. You need between 6 and 8 skeins of really good yarn. Now, this was $200 back in the early 80s when I bought this. So if I'm going to buy good yarn, I need about 8 skeins of really good yarn, and it's $30 a skein. I mean, you're getting up there really fast into prices. So I end up, I'm going to be knitting a sweater, a sweater by Joji Locatelli, and I'm having custom-made yarn dyed for it by a woman from Wolfie Wool Fibers. And she gave me the price points for 5 or 6 different wools, and the cheapest one was like $260 for all 8 skeins, and the most expensive was going up to $330 or $340. So it gets up there real fast. But if you're going to take the time to do these kind of sweaters, man, just save the money and take the time to get the good yarns, because it's gonna make a difference in your stitch quality and in the feel of the sweater. It's so much better than the acrylics and stuff. So I think that's about it for what I wanted to talk about today. The little notebooky things I love, recipes I love. Yeah, next time I'm going to talk about a Dresden plate quilt that I made called Spoken For, and show you a yo-yo quilt that I have, as well as the quilt that I've made for my my 2 daughters. It's coming along. It's still not finished, but that'll happen soon, than later. We'll see. It'll happen when it happens. They're married. I don't have to worry about it. So, all right. I will see you all later. Have a great week. And check me out on Ravelry if you want to. It's Teal Raven. And my name is Terry. Bye.